Okay, so Cognition, who created Devin AI, just acquired Windsurf. And Windsurf is a product that I've spoken very, very highly of. I really like Windsurf. I actually worked with the team behind Windsurf way back when it was still Codium. We did some sponsored content on it and they were great people. So I think it's a very good acquisition for Cognition. But more than that, I want to give Devin another try because something pretty interesting has happened. I gave some feedback on what I think Devin needs to improve, and I don't know if they watched my video or not, but a lot of that feedback seems to have been implemented into Devin, and they have a lot of really cool new and actually pretty unique features that I do want to show you. Now, this video is actually sponsored by Cognition. They reached out to me and asked me to make this video, but I do want to point out that they gave me no talking points. They didn't tell me anything specific to say. All they said was that they wanted a candid review of Devin, so I'm going to candidly give it another shot and see how much it has improved. Now, the first thing I did want to point out is that probably my biggest piece of feedback for Devin before was the pricing. Previously, the only option was this plan in the middle. Essentially, it was $500 a month. And frankly, I just thought that that was too expensive, maybe not for a large team or for some corporation, but for an individual to just try it out, I thought that that was too much. And they've listened. So now there is this core plan, pay as you go, and it starts at just $20. So there is a much cheaper option if you do want to just give it a try and see if it works for you. And then you can pay by however much usage you actually have. But okay, pricing aside, is Devin actually good and what has actually changed? Well, first of all, they added this deep wiki feature that I actually think is really cool. So you give Devin access to your codebase. In this case, we give it access to the AP Instant Codebase, which is a codebase we created on stream a while back. And what it does is it creates this deep wiki for it. So you have this wiki and you have all of these different diagrams and things. So for example, here is the architecture diagram, and this is actually accurate. I don't know that it's like the most useful thing in the world, but if I was trying to onboard some new engineer into this codebase, I actually do think that this and all of this here would actually be pretty useful. And this seems to be pretty accurate to everything in the codebase. As well as we can also see that there's this refresh button, so we can make sure that the wiki is actually staying up to date. So we can have it go through and refresh everything based on whatever new changes we might have made to the repository. As well as I think there's an option to have it just sort of do this automatically as things are changing over time. Additionally, if we go into the settings, we can see a bunch of new options, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but the ones I think are pretty interesting are these integrations. So we now have Slack integration, linear integration, GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, Jira, and there's a bunch of other MCP servers down here as well. But the ones I think are pretty interesting are Slack and linear. So essentially what we can do here is, one, we can add Devin to Slack, and I'll show you that in a minute, but we can also add Devin to linear or Jira. So whatever you're using to track tickets, or if you're just using GitHub issues or GitLab issues, you can do it there. But you can add Devin to these tickets, and then Devin can work sort of more like a normal software engineer, where you just assign it a ticket and it goes and works on it, and then it does whatever it needs to do. Or in Slack, you can just at Devin and say, hey, look at this thread and see if you can go implement a fix for this. And we are going to try all of this in a moment. But first, I wanted to show you the app we are actually working in. It doesn't matter too much, but just so that you have some context on what Devin's going to be working on. So this is an app that we built on stream a while back. Create mock APIs instantly, so you can configure some API. So for example, maybe this is a Git API. You can change what the response is going to be. So maybe instead of John Doe, we'll have Connor Ardman here, and you can see the response here as well as code snippets to actually use this API. And I can hit create mock API. It's going to create it. Takes a little bit of time, and then it's going to generate for us this URL that we can copy. And if I open this in a new tab, you'll see we get the actual output of that API. So we can use this API in our code for testing purposes, or if say we're implementing some front end and we don't want to worry about the back end yet, we can use it for that, or a variety of other things. But essentially that is what this code base actually does. But okay, we're back in Devin, and what I wanted to do first is going to be a sort of easy task, and then we'll give it a medium task and a harder task. So the easier task is going to say the main page of the application is a very long React file, which is true. It is massive. Basically, the whole thing is on one page, or it's all in one file. Refactor this file into a variety of well-organized, smaller components. Do not change the output at all. And what we're going to do is just say start Devin, and Devin is going to work in our repository and try to do this for us. Okay, so we can see Devin searched the code base and it says I'll refactor the large React component into smaller, well-organized components. And we see main component structure, extract the mock API creator function, state management hooks, API configuration forum, parameter management sections, API preview panel, code snippet generator, saved APIs selector. So we can see there's a lot of code here. This is over 1,000 lines lines in this one file. So hopefully it's able to make this much better for us. And one thing I do like a lot about Devin's sort of UI here is one, that it shows you everything that it's doing, and we can see sort of step by step it working. We can see it's been working for 40 seconds on this. One thing I also like here is that it shows you how much usage it actually has. So this is 0.14 ACUs, and that is sort of the unit that you were paying for on a monthly basis, or that you were paying for as you go. So you can see how much this is actually costing you as you go, which I think is really, really good. And okay, so now it gave us this plan overview, and I have it set to where I have to review and confirm the changes before it actually moves forward. This is a setting. You can turn this off and it'll just go and do its own thing, but I like to have to confirm what it's going to do. So it's going to refactor the massive 1,464 line mock API creator component in page.tsx into 5 smaller components. Saved API selector seems reasonable. Parameter manager seems reasonable as well. API configuration form, again, reasonable. Code snippet tabs and API preview. I think this makes sense. Create a shared TypeScript interfaces in API.ts. Extract logical UI sections from page.tsx while keeping all state management in the main component. I think this makes sense as well. Maintain exact same functionality in visual output, no behavioral changes, just code organizational improvements. Good. Test changes by running npm run lint and npm run dev locally to verify identical functionality, then create a PR to master branch. It gives you confidence of, I suppose, how confident Devin thinks it is that it can actually do this, which it is high. It says, please review and confirm or request changes. So I could ask it to do something different if, say, there's some other component I wanted it to make, or if there's something I didn't want it to put somewhere, or maybe I wanted a different name or something. But for now, I will just confirm this to say that, yes, this is what I want Devin to do. Okay, so now we can see that it is starting what it's doing next. So it's creating all of these different files and says, I'm creating new TypeScript interfaces and component files, then refactoring the main page to use these new components. And we could watch this step by step if we wanted to. There's also some interesting tabs up here that are kind of fun to look at. So you can go to progress here and you can see what exactly it's doing. So you can see the code that it is generating, and we can just sort of see it step by step, the progress that it's making. We can see it live, or we could go back and see sort of what it did one step at a time. We can also open up Devin's shell so we can see what it's doing in the command line. We can open up Devin's code. So this is essentially VS Code. So it's the code that Devin is actually writing. Then we can also see Devin's browser. So it's not doing anything in the browser right now, but when it does, you can see what exactly it's doing and what Devin is actually seeing. So I do think all of this is pretty cool, or you can just watch it do its thing here in the main chat, almost like you would with like ChatGPT or whatever other AI chat you might be using. So now Devin says it is testing the application in the browser, and we can actually watch this. So if we open up the browser, we can see this is Devin's browser. So it's actually running this application in the browser and making sure that things are actually working. So that is something that's pretty cool. You can even see Devin seems to be clicking on sign in. So it went to the sign in form, and it's just interacting with different aspects of the application to make sure that things are actually working. And one thing that I will say that seems to have improved, and maybe it's just that I'm using a different repository than last time, but it feels like Devin is understanding this repository much better than it used to. So it's saying I'm attempting to click the HTTP method dropdown to test form interactions, and it seems to just like overall be understanding what exactly it needs to be doing in this application, what the application's actual purpose is. The wiki was very accurate, and maybe that's what it is, that it generates this wiki and it's now able to use the information in that wiki to deeply understand the code base and what the actual purpose of this code is. But regardless, it seems to actually have a much better level of understanding, and it's not, at least with this first attempt here, going through a bunch of circles and doing the same thing over and over again and sort of running into issues with that we see a lot of times with AI tools. It seems to have a pretty straightforward workflow, but we will see as we go through harder examples, it is able to still have that straightforward workflow, or if it runs into more issues and mistakes. So that will be something to test as we go. Okay, so it created a PR for us, and we can see CI failed, and it's trying to figure out what's happening here. And I'm curious to see if it's able to figure this out, because if I go here and I click view CI run, we can see error superbase URL is required. So this error has nothing to do with what Devin just did. This is a different error of something that I probably need to fix. And it'll be interesting to see, does Devin figure out what's wrong here and also fix this? Does it just leave it? Let's see what old Devin decides to do. Okay, so it came up with this updated plan to attempt to fix this and says fix Vercel deployment failure, investigate and resolve CI issue on existing PR number 3, likely missing Superbase environment variables since the local production build succeeds. So this is correct. This is what's actually wrong. I don't know how this happened. Somehow on Vercel, we are missing the environment variables. So what I'm going to do is simply pause Devin for a moment. I'm going to fix that on Vercel and just tell Devin that I fixed it. All right, so Devin correctly says the Vercel deployment is failing in CI because of missing environment variables. Please add these to your Vercel project settings. Then it gives us the PR anyways. And this was actually correct. So I just updated these. So all of these environment variables were here, but they were only on production. So when it tried to run CI in a preview setting, that was not actually working because the environment variables were missing. And I went ahead and redeployed this, and we can see the redeploy did actually work. And I can actually view the website, and I will zoom this in. So here's this running on the preview site. And yeah, things seem to still be working. It seems like Devin did not break anything, and all it did was move some of the code around. So that is working. And then we can open up the pull request. So it says refactor mock API creator into smaller, well-organized components. We can see the changes. It generates this whole diagram for us. This might be a little bit of overkill, but there is a lot here for us. And we can see all the checks have passed, and we can look at all of the code changes as well. And this is a massive change. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through absolutely all of it here, but I will note a few things. So one, it updated the eslint.rc.json, or added this to add this. And I think this should be here. So good change. I don't love that it doesn't really have to do with the PR, but I suppose it's fine to have in here. And then we can see we removed a ton of code from this main page.tsx. One thing I don't love is that it made this API configuration form have just like a ton of parameters, which in a way is fine. So this is sort of just like all controlled by the higher page component. And I actually think it asked me if I wanted to do that, and I just confirmed it. But in hindsight, I think that this is sort of a bit much. I don't love this, but what I do like about this is that it didn't have to change too much logic. So I think this is actually a good incremental step. And then we could ask it on a future PR to move some of these inside of the API configuration form, or try to get rid of some of these pieces of state or something to try to simplify things. But for the time being, I think it's good. And we can see it removed a ton of code and then created some new components, which are essentially the exact same thing we already had, just in different places. So we don't have one component that's 1,000 lines long. Then we also have this types for API.ts with some of these types here. And yeah, I think these are good types to have, and it's good to have these in sort of a central place. Okay, I mentioned that Devin also works with Slack now, so I wanted to explore that a bit. So first of all, I created this just Connor Ardman Slack so that we could use it for testing. You can see I added Devin, so I can just DM Devin for one. So we can see, it said at Devin, how's the weather in Seattle? And this was a little while ago, but we can see Devin ran, and it said it's currently 70, mostly sunny with a forecast. And it actually gave me just an image of Google search. So just Googled this for me and gave me an image, which yeah, worked pretty well. Very simple thing I asked it for, but it did do what I asked. And now we also have this AP Instant channel where we can discuss the AP Instant application, right? So here we say we received a feature request, had a response delay advanced option. You can see there are two responses. They're both by me, but theoretically this could be a whole team discussing something. So I said essentially the user wants a new option where they can set a delay as an advanced option when creating and updating an API endpoint, and the API would wait for that long before responding. I added a new column in the API's table on Superbase for this. The column is called delay and will be the delay in milliseconds. It's an integer type. So now all we need to do is say at Devin to tag Devin here and say, hey, Devin, you have access to this thread and I need you to go do whatever it might be. So I'm going to say, Devin, implement this new feature, updating the backend API routes as well as the UI. And I think this is a harder change, probably the hardest change we're going to do in this video, because of the fact that this change is requiring Devin to make a change on both the front end and the back end and sort of implement an entire new feature. And we can see Devin says, got it, created a new session in this thread. And we can open up this and it says starting a Devin session in response to this message. Devin is running. You can send messages in this thread. Messages starting with aside will be ignored. So if you want to just discuss Devin behind its back, you can do that aside thing. We can say I'll implement the response delay feature by adding delay configuration to the UI and backend processing. And we can see all of the plan here that it actually has. So if we want, we can continue to sort of interact with Devin here in this thread, as well as Devin will keep us updated, but we can also just view this in the Devin website as well. So if we come back to Devin, we can see here is that Slack thread. thread, as well as everything Devin is currently working on. And now while Devin is working on that, what we can also do is look at Linear. So Linear is this tracking app that a lot of teams are using these days. And I have this to-do item, delete an API button. Currently, there's no way for a signed in user to delete one of their API endpoints. Add UX to delete these endpoints and ensure they get removed from the database. And what it can do is simply tag Devin. So I'm going to say @Devin implement this feature and go ahead and send it like this. And we can see, hey, I'm Devin. I'm currently researching your task and I'll be back soon with a proposal. Please check back in 5 minutes. You can track my progress in Devin Space. Later, you will be able to use this Devin Space to start a Devin session, to create a PR, or to perform follow-up analysis. So let's click on this Devin Space. And we can see here in Devin Spaces, Devin is essentially investigating this ticket. And what I do think is cool about all of this is that Devin is currently doing this, while Devin is also currently working on that other task. So I can have Devin doing a bunch of different things all at the same time that I could be working on something completely different on my own as well. Now, I talked about this in previous videos about Devin. Does this mean that Devin is going to work entirely on its own and I can just entirely do my own thing? Also, no. So it sort of feels like that, but at the same time, you do still need to be reviewing everything that Devin does. You're going to need to be interacting with it and confirming its plans and all these things. So it's not going to entirely free you up, but it does potentially free up some time. And it also allows you to do a pretty interesting amount of multitasking all at the same time and potentially across a variety of different integrations. Okay, so Devin finished here, so we can see technical investigation, delete API button feature, current system analysis, missing functionality analysis. So here's what we currently have. We have the database structure, the user interface, authentication, missing functionality, gap identified. There's currently no delete functionality implemented in the system. Users can create and update APIs, but cannot remove them from the database, which directly addresses the ticket requirement. Current API operations. The system supports creating new APIs and updating existing ones through the /API/create mock endpoint, but there lacks a corresponding delete endpoint. Technical implementation requirements, front-end UX components, database cascade deletion, state management, implementation architecture, API route structure, authentication flow, memory management, UI integration points, and some notes. And we can also see back on Linear, we have the option to say looks good. Click here to start a Devin session to create a PR. And we can also go back to that Devin Spaces that we were just looking at. But what I'm going to do is say, click here to create this Devin session. It's going to just autofill this in. So, hey, Devin, I need you to implement a delete button feature for API endpoints in our AP Instant application. Currently, users can create and update their mock API endpoints, but there's no way to delete them. Here's what you need to do. And it gives the steps. When creating your PR, please include the linear ticket ID API-5 in the PR description. Let me know if you have any questions, and we can go ahead and start Devin, and we can see it's going to start working at this at the same time that we are still working on this add response delay option that we got from Slack. And over here in the response delay option, it gave us the plan. So I'm going to go ahead and confirm this plan as well. It has a high confidence that it's going to be able to actually complete this plan. And now for the delete button, we also have a plan overview with the entire plan, which seems reasonable to me. So I'm going to confirm this one as well. So the delete button feature is finished first. So we have the feature with the PR, task completed. I've implemented the delete button feature for API endpoints. The PR is ready for your review. All CI checks passed and Vercel deployment was successful. You can leave comments directly on the GitHub PR. We can open this up. We can see the files that were changed, and we can see we have a new delete mock route. So this is a new route here to delete a mock API, and we can see there's all the code for this. I'm not going to go through all that code manually right now, but we can see it's all there, and we can see the update here in the actual page. And now we could test this in the Vercel deployment it created, but the other thing we can do is just check it out. So we can say git pull, first of all, to pull these new branches, clear this, and we can say git checkout, and this was the branch name. And then I'm going to simply say npm run dev to run this on local host, and we can go ahead and open this up on localhost. It's going to take a moment, but here we go. It's opened up. Let's make this bigger, and we should have the delete functionality. So first what I'm going to do is log in with GitHub, and now we can see I am logged in, and cool. So I have my different APIs. I'm going to go to one that actually has a different name. So let's go to my mock API 12345. We can see that's here, and let's go ahead and try to delete it. So if I hit this delete button, we get a nice modal delete API. Are you sure you want to delete delete my mock API 12345. This action cannot be undone. Okay, delete. This UI all looks good. Can I close this, by the way? So I can simply by, I guess, clicking cancel. Let's click delete here. And okay, API deleted successfully, and it's not there. If I refresh the page, it is still not there. So yeah, it seems like the delete functionality is completely working. So it seems like Devin was able to implement this and it all works. And of course, I might want to go through the code and make some comments just like I would on any pull request from any engineer. But at least at the surface level, the functionality is fully working and Devin was able to do this on its own. All right, so Devin also finished the response delay feature. So response delay feature implemented and tested, PR link, preview, URL, all CI checks passed, ready for your review. You can also review my work in the Devin session. So let's go to the PR. First of all, we can see the files changed. Let's see. So we added our delay, which is a number, API.delay or 0, makes sense. And then let's see, what are we doing here? If there is a delay and it is positive, good, check that it's positive. We are going to wait for that amount of time. Simple enough. And then we have the create mock feature. So we can create a mock with that delay in it as well. And the delay is just always going to default to 0, which makes sense. Then we have the actual page component. So we have delay state. We have that here. And then we have some UI for it. Okay, seems reasonable enough to me. Let's also test it to see if it works. So what I'm going to do is over here in VS Code, we're going to do git pull again to pull that change and git checkout that new branch. And then we can do npm run dev once again and come over here on localhost. And we're going to see if we have this new delay feature once this loads. Okay, so there we go. And if we go to advanced options, we do now have a response delay in milliseconds. So let's say we want the response delay to be 2000 milliseconds. So 2 seconds. API updated. Let's copy this URL and let's open this URL in a new tab. All right, so I have the URL open and what I'm going to do is refresh it. And we should see that this takes like 2 seconds to respond, which I think it did. It's a little bit hard to tell. So let's actually make it even longer. Let's go with not 54 seconds. Let's go with 5 seconds, update the API, and then we can come back over here, refresh this page, and we should see that, yeah, it's taking a while to actually respond. It is still loading, and there we go. It just finished. After, it's going to be a little bit more than 5 seconds because it waits 5 seconds, and then we also have the network delay, but this does seem to be working exactly how we wanted it to. Okay, so what are my thoughts on Devin and how have they changed? So first of all, I think that this version of Devin is way better than the version of Devin that I've tried in the past. And again, I know this video is sponsored, so some of you may have opinions about what that means about my opinion, and that's perfectly fine. But I think objectively, if you watch what Devin did in this video versus what Devin has done when I've tried it in the past, this version of Devin was much more efficient and it solved problems without creating new problems along the way. And it wasn't running into any sort of weird mistakes that it just couldn't get itself past. Now, maybe I just gave it a repository to work in that it was able to work in better, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I think more likely is just that these models have been getting better and better, and we were able to showcase that. Additionally, I think some of these new features like the Jira and Slack integration are super good, and hopefully these will get better and better and sort of smoother over time to where it feels truly like you were just interacting with another one of your coworkers. And from the pricing perspective, I do like that they now have this pay-as-you-go model. It's still not cheap, don't get me wrong. This is not a cheap product to use. There are other AI agents out there that are cheaper to use. So if purely the goal is to have the cheapest option, Devin's not it. But I don't think that's really what Devin's trying to be, and I don't think there's anything wrong with something being more expensive and premium if it's able to deliver on that. And ultimately, if it is delivering on that, is sort of up to you and your own use cases, and if you think it is worth it for yourself. And if you're curious about how much all of this cost, we created 4 sessions in this video. So first of all, just the weather in Seattle that was in Slack, that cost 0.25 ACU. Refactoring the main React file was 2.71 ACU. Adding response delay was 2.25 ACU, and the delete button was 1.06 ACUs. And if you do want to purchase additional credits, 10 ACUs is $22.50. So it's sort of up to you if you think that's worth it or not, but that is the current pricing model if you do choose the pay-as-you-go model. So let me know down in the comments what you all think about Devin. In my opinion, I think it's definitely going in the right direction. I'm super excited about the collaboration that might be happening between Devin and Windsurf, or at least the Windsurf team coming on to the Cognition team, because like I said, Windsurf is great and has great people behind it. So I'm sure that they will do great things with Cognition and Devin as well. So I'm super excited about all of that. If you do want to give Devin a try, again, they're the sponsor of this video. So a big thank you to them and Cognition for sponsoring this video. There'll be a link at the top of the description. I will see you all in the next video.